We have a little, may we first have, no, sorry, I'm going to do it again. May we have our short video so that we know our appropriate behaviors?
Give me just a moment and I'll load that.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you, everyone. Jackie, would you now please take the roll?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Carlson? Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Meadows?
Here.
Commissioner Sauce?
Here.
Chair Haskew?
Here.
Okay, we have all commissioners present except for Commissioner Carlson absent.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Have we received any public comment, Jackie?
No public comment received.
Okay,
Chair,
if there is a
Chair Haskew, this is Mr. Hale. Can we review the agenda items, please?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. There is one announcement in that we are going to withdraw item number 5C because there's additional work that is necessary to support the information. So congratulations, everyone. We have a shorter meeting. Now, would you please also check to see if there's anybody on the screen that wishes to make any public comment?
I do not see any hands raised.
All right, then we're going to move on to the next item. And the next item on the agenda is the election of the chair and vice chair for 2023. I am taking the chair's authorization that I gave myself. I nominate Dave Hudson as chair and Chris Kelly as vice chair. And I'm hoping I can see a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. I believe Commissioner Meadows got in just a shade quicker. So that's it. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Carlson. Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows.
Yes.
Commissioner Sauce.
Yes.
Chair Haskew.
Absolutely.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Carlson absent.
Thank you. And it is with great pleasure that I now demote myself and promote Commissioner Kelly as the chair of pro tem, vice, or otherwise to take over the meeting.
Thank you, Luella. And that's because Dave Hudson is not here. So the next item on our agenda today is the consent calendar. Are there any comments on the consent calendar? Does anyone want to pull an item?
Move approval.
Okay, and before we do that, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on an item on consent? Jackie, do you see anyone raising their hand?
No one's raising their hand, and I have had no public comment on this.
Okay, so I'll move ahead. So Renata Sauce, you've made a motion. Is there a second?
There is from me. Ask you.
Okay, motion by Sauce, seconded by Haskew. This is for the consent calendar. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson? Commissioner Haskew?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Sauce?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Carlson absent.
Okay, so now we're moving on to our regular agenda items. And for those who just joined us, we're just going to have two agenda items tonight, 5A and 5B. And the first item is an action item for approval to send the draft fiscal year 2023-24 CMA budget to the chair of the Public Managers Association. And this will be presented by John Huang. John?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Kelly and Commissioners. John Huang, Director of Planning. I'll be presenting a short slide deck for this item, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the fiscal year 23-24 Congestion Management Agency budget. So as the Congestion Management Agency for Contra Costa, the authority performs three major functions and serves various roles. The first one is we're responsible for implementing the Major J's Transportation Planning and Growth Management Program, which includes development and maintenance of the transportation forecasting model and supporting planning efforts of the RTPCs, the Regional Transportation Plan Committees. We also support ongoing planning processes with the cities and town and the county through funding and development of the countywide transportation plan. We also serve as the Congestion Management Agency designated by MTC for the region. And in that role, we also support in addition to supporting the CTP and the modeling effort, we also developed the congestion management program. This year will be the odd year, which we're going to be updating it. And also we coordinate with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, in development of regional transportation plans, the RTP, as well as implementing and monitoring various state and federal funded programs and projects. Lastly, we do serve as the Sustainable Community Strategies liaisons with MTC, overseeing and coordinating with MTC on supporting the Sustainable Community Strategies, Transit-Oriented Communities, TOC policies, as well as the Priority Development Areas, PDAs, and Growth Investment Strategies. So I'm just going to highlight the two major categories, the growth management program activities. First, this is just a highlight of the items listed in attachment D. These are items that we plan for fiscal year 23-24. So in addition to the salaries and benefits, which totaled up to about $810,000 for the GMP activities, we also have project-specific items highlighted here. Regional planning tasks, that's about $500,000. And that's for almost all the activities that we do aside from project-specific, which is assisting the cities, towns, coordinating with MTC, coordinating with the jurisdictions and other activities. The CMA support, CTP update, and strategic communications. That kind of I roll it all up together, and it totals at $825,000. This year is really the major year, in addition to updating the CMP. We're going to be starting updating or developing the next countywide transformation plan. It's going to start later this month. And the as I mentioned earlier, the CMP support, we're starting it later this month also, as well as other projects, including subscribing to Streetlight. Again, you notice the notation there with the asterisk for the projects that has the single asterisk. We're actually splitting the cost between this GMP program and the CMP, which is out at the next slide after this. The Streetlight data subscription is estimated at $550,000. We do have participating cities. Last year, we had up to, I think, 8 or 10 cities participating. So the cities will offset this cost that the CCTA will pay. The bi-county activities-based model development, this money, half of it will be shared by the Alameda County Transportation Commission. And then the next item, I lumped all this together, updating the bike ped plan and anything associated with the active transportation, including Vision Zero implementation. That totals at $445,000. And then lastly, we're looking at following up on the VMT study mitigation with a calculation project. For the congestion management program activities, there's a salary and benefits of approximately $925,000. And in addition to that, these are the highlights of the projects. Again, these are the same. The one with a single asterisk is really split between the CMP program and the GMP, which I previously shared with you. The countywide comprehensive safety action plan, the CBTP, community-based transportation plans, and the smart signal. These are fully funded by OBAC 3 and match. So as you can see in the attachment D there, there's no cost to the CMP budget by itself. So this is, I got the wrong budget year. I'm sorry about that. But it should be 23-24. So the split is really, we're looking at a total CMA budget of $8.53 million, split as shown there between the GMB and CMA. And the more important aspect of this is that the CMA budget is actually shared by the cities and the jurisdictions, the 20 jurisdictions within the county. So after taking account the OBAC 3 money and all the revenues down at the bottom there, the STP CMA money of roughly $1 million, the MTC OBAC money that 2.38 million, and actually that OBAC 3 that fully funds those items that I listed earlier, and then the planning program and management PPM of 284. So the amount that the cities, towns, and the county will be responsible for will be $291,000. This is actually less than last year's budget of by 35%. So we meaning staff and the finance team wanted to keep this amount as low as possible, and we transfer some of the salaries and benefits to the Measure J portion and try to keep this comparable to previous years. So with that, we recommend that the planning committee approve this draft plan to for staff to circulate it through the Planning Managers Association, which we typically do every year, and ask for their approval. And then at which time we will be combining this CMA budget with the whole agency budget later on in the year. With that, I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I want to note, as I was looking back at my notes, that exactly 1 year ago today, we looked at the previous year's budget here. It was on April 6th of 2022. So any questions or comments here from commissioners? No? John, one thing I know my city participates in the streetlight data subscription, and we really enjoy that. That's really beneficial for my city. And then I was noticing that the total project cost this year is 8.53. Last year, I think we approved around 6.75, but I think the smart signals design has changed it, right? So my point being, is this correct that the amount that we spend goes up and down depending on a number of factors, and some of those are projects, maybe special projects?
Correct. Yes, Chair Kelly. Yes, it fluctuates this year because of the countywide transmission plan effort. Also, that cost increase, but as noted before, that all that smart signals, I'm going to go back to the slide just so that
right.
So these bottom one with the 2 asterisk, this is fully funded by MTC, by federal funds and match. So this is not a burden to these cities.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to point that out. So any other questions or comments from commissioners? Jackie, do we have anybody from the public who would like to speak on this item?
I see no hands raised, and I've received no public comment on this.
Okay, so then we'll bring it back to the committee. Do we have a motion to approve the draft CMA budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024?
Move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion by Haskew, seconded by Sauce. Any further comments? No, then Jackie, can we have the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson. Absent. Commissioner Haskew.
Yes,
Shaking her head.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Meadows.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Sauce.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Carlson absent.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So our next item on the irregular agenda is item 5B, and this is an informational item only. And this is going to be presented by Matt Kelly. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. Good afternoon, Planning Committee members. I'm still getting used to the fact that it's daylight right now during our meeting. It's great to be here. We are presenting an update on the action plans for routes of regional significance and the associated countywide transportation plan, or CTP. It is an informational item, as the chair expressed, and that's because at this point CCTA doesn't take an action on the action plans. Those actions have been taken at the RTPC level, but we'll get into those details during our presentation today. We just wanted to provide you an update of where those action plans are right now as they've gone through the RTPC approval process, and then where we are headed with those action plans into the countywide transportation plan process. So really, we're just going to walk you through what we've done and give you a kind of a preview of where we're headed. And I'm going to turn it over to David Early and his team from PlaceWorks. Anybody who's been an RTPC member over the last year and a half has seen David and his team at least a couple of times presenting on these action plans. So we decided to bring a familiar face to the meeting today and to talk to you about what he's done over the last, what he and your staff at the RTPCs have done over the last year and a half. So I'm going to turn it over to David.
Great.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much,
David and
Matt.
Tarina.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Kelly. Thank you also, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here today. Chair Kelly just did introduce Tarina Wilson, who's here with me, who's been our project manager. And Matt caught himself once to say it wasn't only me doing a lot of work the last year and a half, it was also the RTPC staff and the CCTA staff, and mostly it was Tarina. So I just want to really give credit to where credit is due to her for having done a huge amount of work over this last year and a half. She's also been assisted by Raul Tovar from our office, who's not here today, as well as Charlie Knox, and of course, many of our other staff members. But Tarina has been the project manager and has done the lion's share of the work. And Matt, I want to clarify with you, I had thought that both the committee and the authority later this month would take an action just to accept these plans, but we're not even asking for that. Is that correct?
Yes, we did some research. We don't take an action. The only action we take on the action plans is when we adopt the countywide plan, we are adopting the action plans.
Okay, all right. So when you see my slides in a moment, you will see towards the middle line that says that you all are accepting these plans today, and that's obviously incorrect, and I apologize. So we'll just be presenting these to you. And I believe almost every one of you has seen a presentation very much like this one in the past. So I will try and hit all the main points, but also go through it relatively quickly for you. So I am sharing my screen here, and I'm in the wrong place, and there's the right place. And now I need to do another thing. Hang on, we will make this work. All right, so now you should see my title slide, yes? All right,
Got it.
So I'm going to give you an overview of both the action plans and the CTP, and then we'll open it up for any comments or questions that you have before we close the item. I think all of you do know pretty well that we are engaged in both an update of the 5 action plans, and those are essentially done now, and we're presenting them to you today, along with an update of the CTP, which we will be doing this year and well into 2024 as well. So the CTP is going to build on these 5 action plans, and all of these documents, the 5 action plans and the CTP, are intended to encapsulate the big, bold ideas to enhance the Contra Costa Transportation Network, many of which Tim Hale has been talking about as what he's calling CCTA 4.0, which we really want to be supporting through this work in the action plans and the CTP. So on the planning side of this effort, this means that we're emphasizing the items you see at the end of this slide: reduction in vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, creation of a better multimodal transportation system, equity as well as safety and climate change, innovation and technology, a completely holistic approach to all modes of transportation, and an integrated approach to managing corridors, where those corridors might have more than one facility in them. Oftentimes, a single corridor has both a freeway, several surface streets or arterials, a bikeway, a bus line, a rail line. Those things may all be in a single corridor and are all being managed now in an integrated way. So these are some of the basic watchwords for both the action plans and the CTP. The action plans, as you know, implement the Measure J growth management program by addressing today's transportation issues, and particularly by creating quantitative service objectives, in this case for a host of modes and for a series of non-modal issues. And you see those items listed at the bottom of this slide. We're creating quantitative objectives, which are now called regional transportation objectives, for roadways, for transit, for active transportation, and then also for safety, climate change, equity, and innovation and technology. And all of that work to create these metrics, the RTOs, or what are also sometimes called KPIs, or key performance indicators, that work will continue through the CTP as well. We have done quite a bit of public outreach already in preparation of the action plans. We expect more public outreach for the countywide transportation plan. We have a project webpage up and running, and it's been online for quite some time. For the action plans, we conducted a countywide online survey last spring, and we also held a total of 13 pop-ups at various events, farmers markets, around BART stations, and 2 in Richmond, the Rich City Rides program. We also conducted 6 virtual workshops, and we heard a lot of input, particularly people looking for improvements to BART, at access, frequency, safety, cleanliness. We heard people wanting to enhance the active transportation network, particularly for bicycling and safe routes to school. We heard about people wanting additional improvements to street lights and lighting on trails, infrastructure improvements on routes of regional significance, increased accessible transportation, both ADA transit and paratransit, and increasing traffic calming solutions, particularly around schools. And we heard this countywide in a variety of places. So what's in these action plans now? Well, they have a total of either 12 or 13 chapters, and those outlines are identical in all 5 areas. The only difference being that in La Morinda and Tri-Valley, we do not have any equity priority communities. And so you see Chapter 9 on equity in the West Central and East plans does not exist in the La Morinda and Tri-Valley plans, and otherwise these are exactly the same. So chapters 9 through 12 in La Morinda and Tri-Valley are the same as chapters 10 through 13 in the West Central and East plans. In all cases, those plans have RTOs, regional transportation objectives, for each of these 6 items: transit, active transportation, roadways, safety, equity, climate change, and innovation and technology, again, with the exception that equity is only covered in the West Central and East County areas. Here is a summary of the actions that we have as well. You can see a large number of actions, particularly for transit in all of the subregions. The most emphasis in terms of actions is on transit. We also have a very large number of active transportation objectives, objectives about roadways, and objectives about safety, equity, climate change, innovation and technology, and funding. So the process, this is the slide I was talking about earlier. We have now completed steps 1 through 3, and today is part of step 4. So we have published these plans as drafts. We forward them to all the regional transportation planning committees. They gave comments on them, both the actual elected members as well as the technical advisory committees. Once we had those comments from all of you, we created new public review draft action plans, and those were reviewed and approved by each of the 5 local RTPCs and in the Tri-Valley area, not only by LPMC and the TVTC, but also by the SWAT board. So we've had a total of 6 different approval processes for 5 plans. Those have now all been approved and accepted, ready to be folded into the CTP, and we're now in step 4, presenting them to you and to all of you again sitting as the board this month, as we are also in step 5, starting preparation of the draft CTP, which we anticipate will be happening through 2023 and 2024. And then in step 6, we'll be coming back to you with the CTP, and then going back formally to the policy boards to adopt the action plans after adoption of the CTP. And we anticipate that will happen sometime in 2024. Just a little bit before I close about the CTP update, which is now getting underway. We are, as I said, looking for adoption in 2024 or more likely into 2025. We're building off of all of these existing planning efforts that do include the 5 action plans, but also include the 2020 Transportation Expenditure Plan, the previous and existing CTP from 2017, the Countywide Transportation Project List, or CTPL, which is a compendium of all the projects that all of your local jurisdictions have told us that they're interested in, and then other existing and upcoming CCTA studies, including the Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, Innovate 680, studies that are happening along the I-80 corridor and about extending transit service further north into West County. There's a host of those studies going on, and all of those will be wrapped up into the CTP, all in an attempt to modernize and significantly expand the contents of that CTP to meet the needs of today's transportation network. And we will be preparing an EIR on the CTP concurrently. That's happened in the past. Most of the authorities like CCTA across the state do not prepare an EIR on their CTP, but this is because it's such an important planning document, your staff has determined that an EIR will be prepared, as has been happening in the past, and I think that's a great idea. This is a a flow chart that just shows you the CTP workflow here in the middle of the chart. You can see on the edges that there's ongoing stakeholder input and also an integrated EIR process on the left and the right. And in the middle, you see that we're going to be creating policy papers about key topics of concern. We're going to be creating key performance indicators based partially on those regional transportation objectives I mentioned. We're going to be creating at least one corridor plan for a major corridor in each of the 5 areas, and we may do more corridor plans in some areas as well. And we'll also be pulling together new lists, expanded lists of projects and programs that need to be completed under the CTP. With all those pieces in place, we will then have an actual CTP. We'll bring that to you as a draft for you to consider and adopt. And then again, we'll go back to the RTPCs for them to do formal adoption of their action plans as well. Here are the topics to be covered in the policy papers. We're working to condense these into a smaller number, but you can see that there's a very large number of issues. They cover transit of all sorts. They cover surface roadways, including curb management. They cover bicycles and active transportation. They cover planning issues like the GMP and housing. And then they cover the non-modal issues like safety, equity, climate change, VMT reduction. We're looking at new kinds of innovation in terms of signal interconnection, electric vehicles, connected and autonomous vehicles, and even electric vehicle takeoff and landing vehicles, in other words, drones or aerial delivery devices. So a lot of topics to be covered. We're going to be creating background information as well as a series of draft policies for each of these items so that they can be included in the CTP. We will also be conducting significant public outreach. We're meeting with a stakeholder group from community-based organizations once every other month, every 2 months, in other words. Those meetings have been very fruitful already over the last year, and we can anticipate them continuing. We are also going to continue to do outreach to the general public, particularly through pop-ups and virtual events. And we'll be working with our other partners, like your local jurisdictions, transit agencies, the 5 RTPCs and their tax, other public agencies, other CBOs and non-governmental organizations, the business community, the development community, P3 or private public partnership developers, and others who you might suggest as well. So we've got a lot of outreach happening and already underway. Our next steps are, again, to complete the action plan process this month, to update the countywide CTP with a draft expected in late 2024 or more likely 2025, and ongoing engagement with your jurisdictions, with the public, with stakeholders, with the tax from the RTPCs, and of course, the policy boards themselves. So those are all going to be focuses for our next work as we update the CTP. And that concludes my presentation. I'll stop the sharing and turn it back to the chair, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, David. That's comprehensive. Are there any questions here or comments from our commissioners? Yeah, Renata?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, David, Tarina, the whole team, this is really quite remarkable. So I just want to thank you. I've had great visibility into the La Miranda Action Plan and have seen how much effort goes into that, and then multiply that by 5. This is really a tremendous undertaking. So thanks for all you're doing. If I understand correctly, one of the overarching objectives for this was to kind of promote some consistency and coherence between and among the 5 RTPC plans. And based on where we are today, are there any areas of sort of policy level or priority disagreement or inconsistency between the 5 that will need to get resolved once this gets put into the countywide plan?
David, it looks like you're ready to speak. I'll just say we definitely had those types of meetings through the action plan development process where we did have conflicts at, say, an RTPC boundary, where one had a objective that was one thing and didn't agree with the others. So we did have those types of meetings. So I do believe we resolved anything that was outstanding. However, we did identify corridors, especially corridors that cross RTPC boundaries that we think are ripe for kind of a holistic study, where there are lots of issues going on, beyond what's in the action plan. And we really think we need to, just drill down to, those very corridor level issues. And,
Right.
one is a corridor you're familiar with, the Pleasant Hill Road corridor, but there are others, similar corridors around the county that cross from subregion to subregion that really need a holistic look.
Okay. Madam Chair, if I may, a follow-up
Yeah.
question?
Please.
One of the issues I know that was identified within the La Marinda effort was funding and making that an explicit part of the plan. Is that going to be something that will be addressed on the countywide level?
I don't know if you wanted to go, David. But
Matt, you did so good on the last one. I'm happy to cede the floor again, as you like.
Yeah, so we did make some financial assumptions about the action plans, but really they are not a funding document. The countywide plan and our strategic plan are better geared for funding. So that's where you'll start to see things laid out, by dollar amount. In the countywide plan, we have a constrained project list, a 10 and 20-year project list that we will identify, based on anticipated revenues over the next 25 years or so.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? And before I recognize Tim, I just want to have David one question, and that is, you say you're going to be reaching out to the general public, perhaps in local jurisdictions. Will you be holding some pop-ups in various cities as it gets warmer now?
Yes, we are planning to do that. We, in the past, have held 2 pop-ups per subregion, and I think we'll do that to get started and then see if there's a need beyond that.
Okay, yeah, I know residents in my area would appreciate that.
And Chair Kelly,
So now I'll recognize Tim. Tim, you've got your hand raised. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, please. I was just trying to find the mute button. I think Matt Kelly wanted to say something. Did you want to still say something, Matt?
I was just going to say, for our outreach for the CTP, we are coordinating all the authorities' outreach because there's a lot going on. So, we may be doing CTP outreach that may be paired with, the integrated transit plan outreach and something else. So there will be a coordinated outreach effort going on amongst all of our different moving pieces at the authority. Sorry, Tim.
Great. Tim?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the funding question from Member Sauce, because I think it's an important one. Typically what happens is we don't contemplate funding as part of the CTP. What the CTP does is it identifies what the capital and program needs are in Contra Costa County. And then that's essentially what the countywide transportation project list is. It's essentially going to be a list of projects that are identified through the CTP process. And then what the board can do from that point is decide how we would like to fund those needs in Contra Costa County moving forward, which could contemplate a future measure, for example. And so I think those are the things that that the board can take up in discussion after the CTP is completed. So that's just to maybe better understand the the holistic process between the CTP and funding, as well as contemplate regional sources as well. I mean, ongoing, we have RM3 funding. There's also a regional housing and a regional transportation measure that's being contemplated at the regional level. So I think those are some of the things that we can take into consideration, after the CTP is completed, and that is completely up to the discretion of the board. I think the other thing is kind of building upon what Matt Kelly said in terms of outreach. We are, as you all know, we've been talking about doing this kind of road show, taking the shared autonomous vehicle. We also have a booth that we are taking with a number of materials that focus on individual corridors within each of the subregions and in cities within the counties. And through that effort, we will be doing outreach to support the countywide transportation plan. So, for example, if we come to your city at a barbecue or a wine or whatever type of festival or event or 4th of July event, that'll be the opportunity to kind of continue and do outreach with the city and your constituents around, input on the countywide transportation plan. And then that will continue. I mean, that will continue even into next year again, and so I think outreach is going to be really essential and critical to really developing a plan that can be supported, by the public. I think that's one of our biggest goals here is we want to make sure we're identifying projects that people want, because the thing that I hear very often is, the lack of signature projects in Contra Costa County. And that's really what this countywide transportation plan should be doing, is really identifying what are those, really big signature projects that garner a lot of public support. Those are some of the types of projects that we'll be looking at and identifying, but through a lens of key performance indicators, as David was talking about earlier. It's really important that we are developing a performance-based countywide transportation plan. That is really important in terms of that outreach with our stakeholders and the public.
Thank you, Tim. And I just want to add that, if the CTP outreach to the public could be combined perhaps with some of the CCTA appearances in different cities at events, that you'll then get a lot of people. For example, my city's going to have a cultural festival in June. I've already told Lindsay, hey, that would be a great time for you to show up. So if there could be information about the CTP then and there, there'll probably be thousands of people in my city at that event. And so that's a way to reach people.
Exactly.
Rather than just,
Exactly.
I mean, a farmer's market can be hit or miss depending on the weather and all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
That is our current strategy in terms of public outreach, is to combine those efforts together.
Yeah, great. Okay, any other questions or comments here from anyone? Jackie, do we have any of the public who wish to comment on this item?
I've received no public comments and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, David, Tarina, and Matt. This is just an information only item, and we look forward to hearing more as this goes ahead. Okay, so moving on to correspondence and communications. I don't have any, but there was a handout that was sent to you all, and there's a handout also on the website. Any commissioner comments? Nope, shaking heads. Okay. Any staff comments? Matt or Tim or anyone?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we do have our Redefining Mobility Summit coming up on April 18th. I did send an email to all the commissioners to be able to register if you're available. The panels are going to be outstanding. We have 4 really great panels, an international panel with Japan and Netherlands and Australia present. We also have a business case for autonomous mobility. It's got a great panel members, including the Deputy Director of DMV. We also have our digital infrastructure panel that has a lot of great participation from kind of new emerging kind of digital infrastructure technologies, and such as drones, smart signals, integrated court data systems, etc. And then we also have a future mobility panel that is going to be focused on new emerging alternative fuels. That's We also have the executive director of the California Air Resource Board coming. So really great panel members. The demo zone, it will be great. And then we will also have our 50 plus students there at the event. So looking forward to that. And then the other thing I wanted to confirm is that we are a go for the shuttle launch at Bishop Branch on April 17th. And so more to come on that as more details become available. We passed the last test on Tuesday with flying colors, with the Navia shuttle going through the public intersection. We even tested it with someone riding their bike in front of the shuttle, and the shuttle stopped immediately before the crosswalk. So that was really obviously very good and very encouraging. So it passed that test with flying colors. And so more details to come in terms of I'll call it a ribbon cutting of the shuttle launch at Bishop Branch on April 17th. So just those are a few announcements.
Great. Thank you, Tim. I've already signed up for Redefining Mobility Summit. I encourage everybody else to, if you can. It was a wonderful event last year, and this year, particularly with the shuttle, the demo shuttle being there, it's going to be really, really exciting. So that's great. And lastly, just for comments, I want to let you know, I was in San Francisco last week and learned that WITA, the ferry service, has received its first hydrogen-powered ferry, and it's going to be operating. It only goes 11 knots per hour instead of 24, but it's hydrogen-powered. I think one of the first of its kind, and it'll be operating in San Francisco, and we can ride on it between the ferry building and I think Pier 41 during the summer. So definitely very cool. And WITA's also looking to bring on 2 electric ferries, which is really fantastic too. So that's great. Any comments now from John Huang or from Matt Kelly? Anything final here? No, you guys are shaking your heads. Nobody else? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. We will now adjourn the meeting. And our next meeting is proposed for May 4th at 1:30 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.